Welcome to the Dance Studio Empire podcast, a mix of business strategies, simple tips for studio growth and success, with a touch of inspiration, motivation, plus raw and honest conversations to ensure you are building your studio empire. I'm your host, Jen Dalton, studio owner for 30 years, dance business coach, and author of the book Teaching Dance Beyond the Steps. My business philosophy is creativity is our superpower, and I believe we all have the means and ability to infiltrate this into our studio. Just sometimes we can get too busy, distracted, or overwhelmed to see that. And so this is exactly what I am here to help you do. Okay then, let's do this. Hit that subscribe button, sit back and relax. Now let's get ready to build your dance studio empire. Welcome to this week's episode of Dance Studio Empire. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about creativity exhaustion and how to not only survive it, but recover from it as well. Now, as studio owners, dance teachers, choreographers, we're emotionally driven. We put our heart and soul into every single decision we make when it comes to our students, when it comes to our families and our teachers and staff. And as a result of this, it makes us emotionally vulnerable to creativity exhaustion, to creative blocks. And sometimes, along with that, comes overwhelm and stress. It's really not a matter of if creativity exhaustion occurs, it's when. And I have been there several times. And the last time was actually not that long ago. So during this episode, I'm going to talk you through different strategies and some practical tips that will help you move through these times as quickly as possible. And as some very important person said, I don't know who said it to give them credit, but we need to remember to learn to rest and not quit when we get to these points. So, how is it that we get to a point of exhaustion? The list is really endless, let's be honest, but it could be that you're at the end of a concert season or the end of a recital season. Maybe you're working towards a competition or auditions. Maybe it is just that you're trying to balance your career, your business with a family. Maybe you've got young kids. Maybe you're looking after your elderly parents. Or I know many of you have several jobs just to help make ends meet. But I think really it's just simply that result of constant creating, that relentless decision making, coming up with ideas and managing people. We know that this happens. So then what are the signs that we've hit our threshold? And now this can show up differently for all of us, but some of the suggestions could be that you're just feeling physically exhausted. Maybe you have a loss of motivation, a loss of momentum. Or a very common one is that you just simply can't think of any choreography or create any new ideas or concepts. And it's like you have so many thoughts going on in your head. You know what you've got to do, but you can't organize it or get your to-do list done. And so you end up doing nothing, knowing how much you've got to get done. And then it becomes overwhelming again. Now, when you get to this point, I would love to say, stop completely. Fly to a tropical island, sip on cocktails by the pool, have daily massages. Now, for sure, if you can and you're in a position to do that, then absolutely go for it. But for most of us, me included, we've got responsibilities and commitments that we must show up for. So then how do we do it? How do we find that balance? All right, so I'm going to now talk you through these 7 strategies that are going to help you get through these times of creativity exhaustion as quickly as possible. Okay, number 1 is to focus on one thing that you need to do at this time. Now, this needs to be the most important thing for right now. Now, if you ask me, I think the most important thing is to make sure that your invoices are out, your payment systems are working, so the money is still coming into your business. You need to make sure that your business keeps running, and that is reliant on your fees. Now, for you, if you have that all sorted and it's all ready to go, excellent. So then now I want you to look at the next most important thing. Maybe it's focusing on finishing just one routine that's needed for a competition, or maybe it's teaching a certain part of the syllabus for exam day. Or maybe it's as simple as just confirming your venue of your recital that's coming up in a couple of months. Just put all your energy into that one thing, and then once you have completed it, focus then on the next most important thing. So at the moment, I have one of my studio owners. We had a coaching session last week, and in our sessions we talk about next year, and she's got some exciting new changes coming up, and it is really exciting. But when we sat down for our meeting last week, it became very obvious straight away that she was starting to show these signs of creativity exhaustion. So we just parked next year's stuff. I said, let's put it to the side. It doesn't matter for right now. We can revisit that later in the year. Let's work on the most important thing right now. And she has a performance coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's the priority. So then we focus just in on this one thing. Then we make the dot points for what needs to be done to get this most important thing done. Once she's ticked off that, then we move on to the next. All right, that's the first thing, focusing on just the one thing at one time. Now, number 2, ride the wave of your hard work for a bit. Now, business moves through different seasons. It's just the nature of business. So when you're in a season of motivation and momentum and productivity's high, you're essentially future planning. Now, the flow of this planning will continue to move even when you take your foot off the accelerator for a while. So during this time, you're just going to have to slow down. You're not going to be innovating during this time. All right, trust the work that you've done in the lead up to this particular point is going to get you through. All right, number 3, physically remove yourself from where you are. Now, whether you're in the studio, whether it's your office or the lounge room where you do your creative work, when you change what you see, hear, and smell, you reboot your senses, which can sometimes help your creativity juices start to flow again. So whether you just step outside, have some fresh air, get some sun on your face, whatever it is, change the scenery and see if that helps. Number 4 is to take a break from your own learning and that trying to find inspiration. Now, I'm going to assume the fact you're listening to podcasts that you prioritize personal and professional development. But during these times, I think it's really important to just let your mind rest and allow your brain to empty of that constant creating, that new ideas, because you need your mind to recover and rejuvenate. So, a few things you can do with this. You could just try and engage in mindless activities. Now, for me, it's I'm a bit embarrassed to say, but sitting down and just watching Netflix is how I can completely shut off. I'm also very conscious with what I choose to watch during these times because it has to have, not too much drama, cause no anxiety, really easy watching. But that for me is how I can switch off my brain. Maybe for you, it's a walk in nature. Maybe it's playing with your kids. Maybe it's just getting away from the studio or away from your office. Just try and engage in mindless activities. Second point, if you can, rest is really important. But I'm also a realist. So I know, possibly you've got young children or you've got several jobs. So rest is difficult. I'm just saying if you can, try and do that because that can make a big difference for you. And try and do something that's not creative, which I know is hard. And this may be as simple as switching the radio station over because I don't know about you, but if I'm driving and a song comes on and it gets my attention, I'm like, oh, wow, I could make this into a dance, or we could put this into the theme of a concert. And so it's that constant always thinking, what can we be doing? What can I be creating? And I just really feel like sometimes if I just shut up, I've actually got to a point where I just have no music, no podcast, no nothing. I'm just in silence. And I find that sometimes that's enough just to rest and allow my brain to rejuvenate a little bit. Okay, number 5 is to say no or not now to offers of extra work or commitments or responsibilities. And I know some of you are going to find this hard because you are people pleasers. But just remember, it doesn't have to be a never. So if someone asks you something and it's not the right time, it doesn't have to be never. But in order for you to take on something new and do it to the best of your ability, you need to be mentally performing at your best. And during this time, you can't. You've got too much happening. So if you do struggle with the word no, maybe try not now or maybe later, just to take a little bit of pressure off yourself. You're not letting anyone down. All right, number 6 is to have a rough time plan for your recovery. Now, this is an interesting one. Only you can decide how long you are going to need to start to feel that you're back on track. But having an end date is going to give you something to work towards to keep you moving forward. So even though you are only taking teeny tiny steps because we're wanting you to rest as much as possible, but things still do need to keep moving forward. And so when you get if you do get to that end date and you don't feel ready or recovered, then just simply pick another new end date. All right. So we just want that focus, something that you're working towards to keep you moving. Because if you completely stop and start moving backwards, momentum is really hard to get going again. So just have that rough time in your mind of where you think maybe it'll be 2 weeks. You get to the end of 2 weeks, then maybe it's 3. And that's how I found last time I came out of this. I gave myself 1 week to start with. I got to the end of that week. I'm like, I really need another week. So it then took another week. And then after that, I said, if I could just have one more week, I know I'm going to turn the corner. And I did. And that third week really made a big difference. And just to say, that was actually during a lockdown and school holidays. So I was able to really shut down, but it made such a difference. And then the rest, I'm where I am right now because I did take those 3 weeks off and completely rested my mind. Okay, and finally, number 7 during these times is just to remember your why. Why is it that you wanted to teach? Why did you want to start a studio? Remember that impact that you wanted to have on the next generation of dancers or teachers that you're training. I know during these times of exhaustion and when the stress and overwhelm set in, it can be hard to keep focused on that bigger picture. And just remember this business that you're building or that you currently built, and just remember why you do it, because you will get to a point where you feel better and you are raring to go again. Trust me. Trust me, I've been there. I know. It is just a natural part of our job to go through these seasons of creativity exhaustion, the creative blocks, that overwhelm. It really is just part of our journey, but it's how you manage it that counts. Okay, so there are my 7 strategies to help you survive and recover from creativity exhaustion. Now, if this is resonating with you right at this moment, can I ask you, please be kind with yourself? Just give yourself a break. Remember, if you take your foot off the accelerator for a bit, no one will notice. And I don't want to hurt your heart, but others just aren't invested in your studio the way you are, which is obviously. But I just want you to remove the guilt and stop worrying that you're letting others down, because honestly, you being at your best creatively is way more important than that continually innovating and trying to be in front of your audience and getting out, more social media posts. You are more important than that. Okay. So I really hope that you've been able to take some stuff away from this episode and use these strategies, if not now, maybe down the track. The other thing, if you know of someone who may benefit from this, please share it with them. I think it's really important that we continue to look out for each other and look after each other in our industry, because although the industry feels big, it really is quite small. So let's look after each other, particularly during these times. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. As I said, I would love for you to share this episode with other people. Please tag me if you can, just so I can reach back out to you and say a big thank you for that. And I will catch you next week for the next episode of Dance Studio Empire. Thank you for listening to this episode of Dance Studio Empire. If you enjoyed it, please share it on your stories on Instagram and be sure to tag me at Dance Teacher Central so I can say thank you. And if you really want to support me and the show, I'd absolutely love for you to leave a rating or review. For all the latest from me, you can follow me at Dance Teacher Central on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to tune in next week for more strategies and tips to ensure you are building your dance studio empire.